So this is our this will be our last class. Chris Wilson called this week, and I'm not sure what's going to be in here next, but he was kind of asking where I was at. And I was like, well, where do you need me to be? And he was like, well, it'd really be great if you could wrap up your class and kind of get us on track. So this will be the last one. I've got a lot that I want to cover. So this might go, I don't know if it'll go fast or not. Hopefully we can get through everything. Tried to combine some stuff. I wanted to just share that a lot of the material that I've been using is from this book, Every Parent's Guide. It's the same as the title, but this is done by the Fuller Youth Institute, which is a really great organization. Their primary focus is on youth and family, and they put out a lot of really good material all the time. If you've ever heard of like Sticky Faith or Sticky Teams or Growing Young or any of that kind of stuff, they're the group that does that. So if you're interested in sort of following up or digging any more, at least into the stuff that I've been kind of using, not all of it's in here because I've kind of put in some of my own things, but it's really good to check out. So today is really kind of getting into talking about preventative measures and things that you can begin hopefully putting into place. And I'll just say that this is going to be a little bit more like a shotgun today in terms of a lot of different things. Not everything is going to be the right thing for you, for your family, but maybe some of the stuff that we talk about could be helpful, or you could find ways of putting them into practice. Not everything, and I'll talk at the end about stages. So some of this will be maybe more applicable to people with younger kids. Some it'll be more applicable for older kids. It'll kind of be yours to judge kind of where you're at in that. This has been the primary passage that we've thought about throughout this part of this class, a famous passage from Deuteronomy chapter 6. Just to reiterate, a lot of the approach that we have been thinking about is that faith is caught, probably more than it's taught. Particularly practice is caught more than it's taught. Our kids pay a lot more attention to what it is we do than what it is we say. Getting a lot of how they are thinking about engaging the world, engaging with their phone, social media, all of those things. Even in terms of faith, how important God is, almost will directly equal how important God is to you. And how they engage with media often is going to be mirroring how you do it. So that's kind of where we have been starting from, particularly with this passage. It talks about there are all these moments of life in which there are going to be teaching moments. Every moment is a teaching moment. So first question that we'll kind of talk about, how can I help my family be together when we're in the same room? You guys have probably seen this. If you have, or you know others who have, you all live in the same house, but you rarely talk to each other. Or I find we have two stories, which I thought was going to be great until I never see Liam ever. And I have to text him to come down for dinner, or because I'm not going to climb stairs. I mean, that's just stupid. Or just yell at the top of my voice. We bought an intercom system, but he never plugs it in because he needs to plug his phone in. I'm like, anyway. So you guys get it. So the first question we're going to think about, how do we do that? So I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much tension do you think you and your family experience around digital media use in the car, at home, and what are the things that seem to cause the most tension?
Kids fighting over iPads and stuff like that.
Okay, so fighting over the access and shared use of the devices.
If they're like one and they're having to share it, it's like they can't. Honestly, I mean, they won't be good without one. So it's like we sometimes use a pacifier almost.
Yeah,
we can have mental peace
Yeah.
Even that's about doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all kinds of fights going to rise from everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much.
Okay. Anybody else?
My kids do not listen like Izzy is. She's on it, and you could say the same thing 15 times, and she doesn't hear you, and you get frustrated.
Yeah.
Even if it's like she's allowed to be on it at that time,
Yeah. Just totally tuned out. Yeah.
Or they, first thing in the morning, and I'm like, okay, no more any technology in the mornings because we're getting ready for school, we're eating breakfast, just worried about. They're on it, dude.
Yeah. So we don't like our kids to be on them. I mean, if we're going on a really long trip, that's one thing, but if we're just like driving from here to Tahlequah or something to see my parents, it's like Liam wants to play a game or something on it, and he's not supposed to. And I remember we were driving and I started talking to him. I don't remember what I was talking to him about. I was asking him questions about his day or telling him something important, and it was just cricket silence. And I looked back and he's on his phone. I was like, Liam! It's like, what? It's like, what did I just say? He goes, So yeah, I totally get it. Okay, so for in thinking about this, oftentimes our first inclination is to go to establishing rules. And what I would suggest, what they recommend, is to think about it in terms of not just rules, but also relationships. We find ourselves defaulting to just rules and forget that the point of rules is to facilitate their growth in a relationship. And oftentimes we have the rules without the relationship side of that, without trying to take it away and replace it with anything else. And so we might go to limiting screen time, which can be helpful when they're young. But as you know, as our kids get older, it's harder and harder to enforce screen time, harder and harder to keep them off of things because they might need it for school, things like that. If we do end up going to a phone-free school, that's going to be great. That'll be really helpful in a lot of ways. But instead, thinking about it, instead of rules, think about rituals and routines. And so here's what I mean by that, is you're thinking about what you might do differently in your own home. Instead of just rules, think about rituals and routines. So rituals are where are your kids going to be allowed to use their phones or be on social media, and where we might do those things together, utilize technology together. When are we going to be able to be on this, and when are we not? So setting some rituals. We know that during these times of the day, or we're in these situations in our car, we're not going to do it. Instead, we're going to engage in something else, like, play 20 questions, or, come up with other ways of engaging one another. Who do we going to use, with and without? What's appropriate? Especially if you have kids that are gamers. That's one that, neither of my kids are much, they don't use social media. They don't do a lot of that. But Liam's on his Xbox a lot. So we don't have to have the phone conversation with him. We have to have the Xbox conversation with him. And who is he allowed to play with? Because you can find just as many issues get created in gaming as you can with phones. Routines to protect the important parts of our day. And I find this important even as an adult. So work. What times and places am I going to use my phone or media for work or for homework? One of the things that can be challenging about my work is, in a lot of ways I need to be available 24/7. I can think of 3 different occasions where I was on a day off on the golf course and got a phone call from a member who was contemplating suicide, or their accident happened and someone lost a spouse or something like that. So you probably have certain situations in your own life where maybe you need to be able to be available. But if I am not protecting family time from work, so I try to have a goal of turning my phone off at a certain time every night and checking messages if I get sent a message, but I'm trying to reserve that time to just be with my family, be with my kids. Work can wait, that sort of thing. So finding those routines for my own life is really helpful. Finding those for my kids has been really helpful, and play. So how do we use our phones? Because it's, our kids do enjoy, they play games and they interact, and there's all those kinds of things. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but are we creating routines where it's not just 24/7, 7 days a week, but there are going to be certain times when, you're allowed to do that. Liam can only, play his Xbox after he's done with his homework and for only a certain period of time, so trying to establish some routines that they can look forward to and know when it's over, it's time to move on to something else. Big one, we've talked about this before, but protecting sleep, especially for our kids. And this isn't just young kids, this is teenagers as well. They're still in a development stage of their life. Most studies say now until almost 25, 26, 27, still in growth, still in development, where there are just things that they need in order to become, to fully develop. Protecting sleep is a huge one. This is something I worry a lot about with Liam. Harper's really good about, she'll come down at 8:30 and I'm like, well, I'm going to bed. I mean, she is like an 80-year-old man in that in that regard, and she'll go up and she'll go to sleep. Liam, we have to go up and check. He'll be wanting to play, video games or be on his phone watching YouTube or something until midnight if we let him. And times when we've been like in the summer or vacation or something like that, and we let it have a little more leeway, he's a lot more grumpier, sleeps a lot less. We get a lot less engagement out of him when he's doing that. And he'll complain about not sleeping very well, bags under his eyes. I'm like, well, did you try to go to sleep right after turning your phone off? And the answer is almost 100% yes. They just don't allow your brain to shut down the way they need to. So protecting sleep, even investing in an alarm clock. I know kids talk about needing the alarms. We talk about needing our phones for alarms. But, Walmart has a lot of really great alarm clocks. So putting the phone to bed in another room so there's no temptation for them to want to be on it in the middle of the night when you're not being able to watch. So some things to think about, to ask the when and where questions for your family. When are we going to engage this? Where is it going to be useful to us? For some, you're starting to think about, we're going to talk about this in a minute, at what age, if you got young kids, what age do we start letting them use their phones? And I know I've talked to Jordan and Jeff some. Once your kids get to a certain age and they're getting involved in a lot more school activities, it's helpful to be able to figure out how to get a hold of them. Name some consistent family rituals. We started doing like no technology Tuesdays and Thursdays, or those are just going to be days where we weren't going to do anything. And instead, we're going to have a game night or go do something outside as a family, or, do something else. And initially we thought that was, and there was like not a great response to that. But the more we started doing that, the more they began to look forward to whatever we might do together. In the summer, we'd try to go on adventures on those days. More fun than fights. I know that if you try to, I've talked to a few who have tried to start curbing some of the use, and it's not gone super great. So, figuring out ways to not just remove it, but to do something fun. I have this last one on here, creating a family covenant to define investment. And so basically what I mean by that is, how much investment are we going to pour into these phones? And can we come up with a plan together involving your kids, in conversation of what we can all live with? What can we all do? And the reason it matters is we don't want to create an us versus them. We don't want to create an adversarial relationship with our kids. We want to be able to remain in conversation with them and create a warm environment as far as it goes, not to totally want to shut it all out, but to acknowledge the ways in which being on your phone is even needed for them and their connection with their friends, those sorts of things. But to really think about how we're doing it, because if we lose the relationship with our kids, we don't have the potential to continue influencing them. And it's our responsibility, is to keep the relationship with their kids. It's not our kids' job to keep the relationship with us. So how we go about handling all of these conversations is hugely important. I owe it to my kids to try to be in relationship with them. Kids don't often have that same feeling of it's their job to be in relationship with us. Hopefully once they grow and get older, that changes, but early on, it's our responsibility to do that. So getting into some of the more practical things, how do I supervise what they're saying, what they're sharing, without also making them feel like they're under surveillance? So I want to talk about the what you guys use in a minute. So I'm going to ask y'all to share a little bit more about your experience. But first, I want to address a couple of the things to be concerned about. Why, we think about invasions of privacy, those sorts of things, and those are conversations to have as your kids age. But there's so many issues with that can arise. We need to be responsible to our children, right? There's a difference in being responsible for them. I can't control who they are and everything they do, but I can be responsible to them, meaning I'm exercising my duty as a parent to protect them, to guide them, and I can't do that if I don't know everything that's going on. I'll just give you one example. So when we lived in Missouri, we kind of wrestled with this, the whole privacy issue. Should I check her phone? Should I read her text messages? Those kinds of things. And this was early days of her beginning to use a phone, and she wasn't allowed to date. We didn't not allow our kids to date until they're at least 16. And she came out of her room one day and she was just bawling. She was in tears. This kid that she had been talking to, not dating, but talking to, we had picked him up and brought him to church a time or two. In fact, that night was a Wednesday and we just dropped him off. And she comes and she shows us this string of messages that had started like several days before. And he was, saying things like, if we can't be together, I just can't stand that we're not together, and your parents don't have any right to keep you from us being together, and I just love you. And she was like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, if we can't be together, I'll just kill myself. And started threatening manipulation, right? My mom has a gun. I know where it is. And if we can't, be together and be in love, I'll just kill myself and wait for you in heaven. And Harper, being who she is, says, well, I'm pretty sure I will have moved on by then. Which obviously did not go over well with this kid. Anyway, we called the school, got people involved. He got the help that he needed. But she told us then that she was like, I'm not ready for this. And so we kind of set up a routine of times where she would give us her phone and we would just kind of go through messages and look for red flags. Cause I looked back through the messages with him and I could have shown 3 weeks ago, these are really red flags that she's not picking up on because wasn't mature and old enough to figure those things out. So there are things that our kids are going to experience, maybe even likely already are, that we have to be worried about. The relationships is a big one. Pictures being shared. There's some research that suggests the idea of sexting can start happening as early as 11 years old. Kids begin sharing things with one another. And as parents, we're here to help them learn to share responsibly what is and isn't appropriate. Because the world is going to recommend to them what is and isn't appropriate. And, if we're going to allow teenagers to decide what is and isn't appropriate, we're destined for trouble. Being aware also of things like this. These look like calculator apps, right? These are called vault apps. They try to take these down as soon as they appear, but they don't always do it. Apps like this will hide pornography and images and things like that. So if you were to even look at your kid's phone, it might not look like there's anything going on there. It's totally harmless, but they're hiding much more nefarious means. Like I said, Apple and others, Google Store, they try to catch things like this, but they don't always do it. They don't always do a very good job. Of course, we know Snapchat, nothing's ever stays the same or is hidden, and you can use Snapchat for all kinds of terrible things. There's many more. So I would just suggest knowing the codes of your kids' phones, knowing how to get into them, having it established that part of, especially as they're young, part of the responsibility of having a phone is that they're still accountable to us as parents to help make sure they're not getting in anything they shouldn't. When it comes to social media, how young is too young? What would you say? What age do you think's too young? Or what? Under 10? Yeah, so the legal age is 13. The legal age before you are legally allowed to have social media is 13. But like I've mentioned before, this is nothing that our kids will be stopped by. They know how to create, like Liam all the time in his games will go and change his phone's setting to like weeks later so he can get rewards earlier. You know how like some games have like weekly rewards? He knows how to go in and like scam the system to get early rewards. Like kids are smart enough to figure out how to get away with stuff. So some of the ways of helping to protect against those kinds of apps and other things is to consider alternative uses or alternative methods for providing them phones that will help in all the other areas where we think they're needed, being able to communicate with them, get in touch with them, those sorts of things. So I took this screenshot off of a website selling this phone. It's called TrueMe. And I didn't know about this until you guys told me about it. You want to tell us about your experience with TrueMe and kind of what all it's able to do? I put a lot of the like stuff up here that is really helpful. They're free. You can get the phone for free, and it's like the most expensive level is like $29 a month. So it's not all that expensive.
If you time it right, you can get it. Like they do discounts all the time on the phone. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's like $50, but it depends on when you buy it. But we've had pretty good experience with it so far. It works really good. It's not very expensive. It's like $32 or something like that a month. Like that. It's not very costly, and it's the phone's free. I mean, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
She gets to do the things that Jordan allows on there. Jordan's kind of got the control of it, so she wants to do an app. Jordan has to approve putting it on there. She can limit her starting and stop point when the phone's active. Like so, it's bedtime. She can shut it down where she can't use it. In the morning time, she kicks it back on. As far as like making them feel like they're being,
surveilled
over their shoulder. Jolie's not. I'm not gonna say Jolie's the sharpest, but she doesn't remember that because she'll complain. There have been a couple times where she complained about her mom to me. I'm like, you do realize that she reads your text, right? And then, like, I'm even here recently, like, she would want me to tell her on a text, like, what we got George for Mother's Day. I'm like, she will snoop. I was like, no. She forgets. She forgets. But
yeah.
So she forgets that it's there, and
well, because I don't have to be like, give me your phone.
Yeah.
Anything I want to know, I just pull it up.
Yeah, because you have an app on your phone where you're able to control and see everything that's going on.
Yeah, I don't have to be like, give me your phone and make her feel like I'm invading her privacy, even though I really am.
Yeah.
I read them all. But, I mean, it even flags, if it thinks you can set, like, settings on there, like if you want it to be really tight on things that might be inappropriate, I mean, it'll flag it and she can't see it. If it's a picture or a video and it thinks it's inappropriate, I can see it, she can't. I can go in there and, like, make it where she can see it after I see it. But it censors things before they ever get to her. Like, her friend sent her a video, like, she wanted to know what she was wearing to school because they were trying to match. And she sent her a video of her outfit, and it blurred it out. She couldn't see it until I approved it because they thought it was bad.
Yeah, I think
even, like, phrases, like, right. You're stupid, like, just joking with your friends. I get probably 30 of those a day. Like, and it's just something, I don't adjust it because I want to know that. And it does flags things for mental health reasons. Belly was supposed to go to a game, got in trouble, and told her friend, I'm not going anymore, and it flagged it. I thought something might be wrong mentally because she doesn't want to go anymore. But it's because I grabbed her. But, I mean, I like it. Jolie doesn't complain, and it does, like, you can't text anybody that I don't put in there. And people can text, if she gives her number out, they can text her, but she's never going to get it. I can see it all. Anything blocked, I still get it.
Or someone can't accidentally get her number through another way, and yeah.
Tells her if they try to contact.
Yeah.
It shows up in blocked contacts. She can't download anything. It actually doesn't even support social media. That phone doesn't. But any app, she can send a request to me that she wants it, and she just tells me she sent a request, and I can, if I want her to have it, I have to like unlock her settings in her phone because that can be locked. She can't even access the settings, so that she can download it, control when it shuts off at night. Unless the person's marked as an emergency contact, she can't talk to them after like 8 o'clock at night.
So it really puts the power in your hands to be able to craft the experience you want her to have.
And I know kids are like, want a cool phone, and it's a nice.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the picture there. So it looks like it's like a Galaxy or something like that. Yeah.
It has like a kid browser and photos. I've turned those things off. She's not allowed to get on the internet, or I may have turned her photos back. I told her, I said, you get one chance. If you blow it, I'm turning it off.
Yeah.
You can turn off group chat.
It's made some learning opportunities for her too, because like I think she saw that some girls were playing like matchmaker in the group, and like we don't let her date there, and so she basically like told her like you need to tell your friends like if they want to stay in your phone book to let them know that those kind of talks are not happening. Yeah, and so she's had to basically be like, no, like go tell. And it was kind of a growing process for a kid that age. Like, no, I can't engage that kind of talk. And
here's why.
I have actually removed contacts from her phone because I just didn't like.
They weren't treating her well.
The conversations were not that it was anything specifically bad. I could just tell that, which I don't even really know the kid. It was a situation where people's feelings were getting hurt on the basketball team because I didn't know how come she can have her number and not. And I was like, whatever, but if I don't like it, they're gone. And I removed all but about 4 people in her phone, besides parents and grandparents. And that's all you get. And she still sends about 10,000 text messages.
So I wanted to put that up here just to show there's a lot of options. There's a lot of options for being able to let your kids have a phone and use it, but to be able to control and have comfort in knowing exactly what's going on. Even if you have a regular phone, there's still like family sharing and different things where, even just with our iPhone, they have to ask for approval for any app they get, but they also, I can set screen time limits, those kinds of things.
For the Google version, it's just called Family Link.
Family Link, so same kind of deal.
I think it has all the messaging for like the flagging options, but it has the basic things like screen time and app.
So also on this website, I thought was really cool is not only if you got a phone, do you have all the protections that it offers, but also opens up a lot of resources to help deal with different challenges that arise. So I found that was really cool. Where I want to move kind of next is all of this is really, really good. But I would say use these methods, tracking, content filters, all of those things as a backup. Like they're going to be a really good backup, but the best prevention for any of this is to be able to talk to your kids about it. The number one thing I think that I have tried to keep in mind, that I would say all of us as parents need to keep in mind, is we want to ensure that when kids leave our care, leave our homes, that they're going to continue on doing what's right. I might be able to control my kid and make them do all the right things while they're in my house. But if I'm not instilling in them, and we know this as parents, right? When our kids get in trouble, they don't just get in trouble, they also get a talk, a conversation about why they're in trouble. I don't see my goal as a parent as being able for them to do the right thing while they're with me, but to choose to do the right thing when they're not with me anymore. So talking through why we're making these choices, why, especially like with the friends who you removed, it's just because I didn't like them. It's because the kinds of conversations were harmful. The potential for damaging your self-esteem. There's there's lots of ways when it comes to sharing of pornography, images like that. Not just that it's wrong, but why is it wrong? Why does it go against God's plan for us and for human sexuality? To be able to talk to our kids about the reasons we're doing this. Harper told me that she's looked ahead at her classes and she knows she'll probably have to have like Instagram or something for classes she's going to take at Harding. And she's going to try to talk to them about ways that she could maybe not do it. Because it's like she's heard from us for so long about how harmful these things can be. She's making choices now to not want to do all of that. I haven't needed it in my life. Big, huge thing, create protocol for your family. For instance, I wish that we had done this before this incident with this kid in Missouri, where if Harper saw something that was troubling, she knew that she could immediately come to us, or that she was supposed to come to us. Now it's like, since then, she's comes to us every little hint she gets that something's not quite right. But to set up a protocol for when, not if, but when your kids get exposed to content, or approached online, or something's getting out of hand, that they feel like they can trust you with it, to come to you, to talk to you about it. Let's see. Big one, consider what you're doing. Consider what you're doing and sharing and saying online. A study that this group found was that the most common request of kids as age 10 to 17 was parents stop posting pictures of them on their social media pages without their approval. And I think that's actually a pretty big deal. Harper doesn't like pictures of herself. She doesn't like other people to see pictures of herself. If it makes me feel better to post pictures of her and what she's doing, that's a problem that I have. If I'm doing that, especially against her will, because she, feels bad about it or doesn't like it or whatever else, I have to be careful that I'm also doing things for the reasons that I should be. So, want to finish here. We're almost out of time, but how and when do I take the training wheels off? So, I know that I won't be able to completely control what my kids are doing for forever. So, are there stages of having like the TrueMe device and then slowly allowing them, because, that's a really good tool, but are they going to be like our age and still on it? So no, and we all get that. So at what stages do you kind of loosen and until they're going to be launched from your home and hopefully making the same choices that you're helping them make by putting more structure in place now? So there's 3 different stages. This is their language that I found helpful. The first stage is architect. You're the parent, they're kids, so you're helping to build the structures that last. So these are all the practical things, using the devices, using family sharing, using all of those things. You help them build in these early years. You reserve the right to take them away, to set the rituals and the rules, to check the phones for what messages are being shared and those kinds of things. Even if you feel like you've already kind of gone too far and allowed too much freedom, it's not too late to come back if you talk about why. So hold all the device passwords, all the username passwords, all those kinds of things. So you're more in control, right, of what's going on. The second stage, and I would say this is somewhere in like the middle to upper teens, you become the mentor, where you're not so rigidly controlling everything. You still reserve the right to be able to check in with them, but you're guiding, you're teaching, you're helping them to develop their own character for what choices they're going to make, talking to them about the role that they see it playing in their lives. And then the final stage is where you're the companion. They're adult. You're doing things together, building a relationship, hopefully continue happening. But as they begin to emerge into adulthood, the hope is that they will continue. Continue with the structures that you have put in place. They will continue with the philosophy that you have about the importance of a phone or social media or any of these other things in our lives. The goal is to raise not kids, but to raise adults, right? When we talk about raising kids, I think that's the wrong mentality. I'm not raising a child. I'm raising an adult, because that's what I want them to be. It's what I want them to become. So we have to start thinking of them in those ways. Okay. That's all I got. Any comments or questions? This has all been kind of a lot very quickly. Is that the second bell? Okay, so then that's it. What? We're done. Let's close. There's tons and tons of resources about this. I don't know that I've done like the best job in the world at trying to share everything, but I've tried my best. But definitely, if this is something you're interested in and want more resources, I'd be happy to help point you in the right direction and continue the conversation. All right. Thank you guys very much. Go wish your mothers happy Mother's Day.
The blanket.
And after I found out about the degree, I was like, maybe I just want to get one.